Right. Welcome to another interview for WKS, and I'm with Rhys Hurd, who's kindly, agreed to give me an interview. How are you doing, Rhys? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good.
Brilliant. Would you like to sort of, introduce yourself a bit fuller about your music, where you're from, that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. So my name is, as you said, Rhys Hurd. I'm a guitarist. I'm a vocalist. I grew up in Devon, in Brixham, and I'm currently living down here. I'm currently studying down in Falmouth. But who knows? I could stay down here for a little bit longer.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, so I'm currently based in Falmouth. Came from Brixham in South Devon, and yeah, I mainly play. My main project is my solo project, which is named Rhys Hurd. I play I play fairly hard rock sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I've,
it's
I've
got
sorry, I was before you came on to the interview. I was listening to some of your tracks, um, and yeah, you definitely at the hard rock edge. But also there was a track on there. I think it's called "Head in the Clouds." I think it is. So, am
oh
I right?
yeah,
I mean, I don't
yeah.
know how recent or old that track is, but that to me was so chilled, laid back, very sort of Pink Floydy esque, if you like.
Mm,
Um, yeah, and I mean, I like that sort of stuff anyway. But yeah, so
that's
so
good. Yeah.
are you studying at Falmouth then? Is the music place there, or
Yeah, so I'm currently a student at Falmouth. The course is called Popular Music.
okay?
It's basically music with a bit more of a industry focus, I'd say. So you look at a bit more how music has affected the sort of culture, mainstream culture, that kind of thing, in
Right,
quite a lot of detail.
right,
So it isn't
okay,
specifically genre based.
right. So how obviously with this lockdown that's happened, how's that affected you musically then?
Um, when lockdown, I mean, 2020 was initially going to be initially I had a lot of plans for the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
We just done a few gigs in March, like right at the beginning of March. I think the last gig we did was the 15th of March, which
Okay.
was, I believe, a week, just over a week before lockdown hit.
Yeah, yeah,
So we got really lucky with that gig because I think it was the last possible day that we could have possibly done anything like that on. So that was really, really good. And I was happy
right.
we got that in. But even then, something was, everyone knew something was glooming, something was
Yes.
happening.
Yeah.
You know, everyone could feel something different. Um, so unfortunately, yeah, a lot of live music plans, a lot of everything like that, it all grinded to a halt. And it was difficult at first because, of course, not only did I have all of these plans that you put in place, all of them essentially just gone,
Yeah.
you had to adjust to. Initially, I was away from my family for the first small period of lockdown.
Right.
So I had to adjust to that, adjust to a completely different way of working with university. Everything was on Teams, Microsoft Teams, and we had to do
Yeah.
everything um, remotely. So it was quite difficult at first, but I think, of course, it was very, very difficult for most people
Mm.
when they first start. As lockdown went on, I found ways of managing my time a little better and finding a bit more motivation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, of
Did you find
course,
yourself writing more, maybe, or was it a case of you couldn't quite get the spark because you weren't doing the normal things that you normally do, or how did your writing get affected?
writing was different. I mean, from a very sort of like, I've always written. If you look back at the track that you mentioned, "Head in the Clouds," that was off an EP I released back in, I think, 2016,
Right.
and that was almost all of that was pretty much just written in my bedroom with just a guitar and a computer, pretty much.
Okay.
Not so, not the kind of typical setup this kind of music, but it worked for my situation. So I think that wasn't too bad. Um, for me, I think everything going around kind of affected my motivation mostly. So I think
Yeah, yeah,
so that did affect me a fair bit, and it got better along the way. So I did. By the end of lockdown, I started writing a lot more, but at the beginning, I was sort of struggling to come up with any sort of
yeah,
creative
yeah.
ideas.
It's a bit almost like being shell shocked, isn't it?
Mm,
Yeah. So, okay. So you come out of the lockdown a little bit more positive, would you say, musically?
I'd say so, yeah. I've
Okay.
looked at, with the music that I do and everything like that. A big part of it, a big part of sort of connecting with people has always been social media.
Right.
And I found during lockdown, one of the main things I found was it was really difficult to find things to do on social media and connect with people without the gigs and
Yeah.
all that kind of happening. Because with that, you can kind of just document it and then put that online and say,
Yeah.
here's the gig, everything like that. But without that, it leaves this sort of gap, which is where I got the idea to do what I call creative chats,
Yeah.
is a small little series on YouTube,
Yeah.
which I started. And I basically get people on from any area of the creative world, really, and I talk to them really about anything. It's quite
Brilliant.
a
Brilliant.
yeah, it's quite a laid back sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really cool for me because it's one of those things that I've always wanted to do, but
Yeah.
never really had the time. So I thought might as well try it.
Yes. Yeah. So you sort of a lot of your creative outlet in a sense through the podcast that you do.
Mm.
Are you, so is that carrying on for you now?
Yeah, so it took a little bit of a break um, for the last couple months, just simply because I've been sorting a few other things out.
Yeah.
So I've had a little bit less time. However, recently I've started recording a few more episodes. So I have, I think, two episodes that have been recorded, and
Right.
they just need editing
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
posting now. So
So and you post them up on YouTube.
yeah, at the moment it's just YouTube.
Okay, so
Um,
people who've tuned in to listen to this and Rhys, then you can actually find him on the YouTube channel. Look for, I think it's Creative Chats podcast. Is that right?
it will be on just Rhys Hurd, so I just post it on my Rhys
Oh, on
Hurd.
your, okay. So just look for
Yeah.
Rhys Hurd. Brilliant. Absolutely superb. So where do you sort of, where are you taking your music now then? What do you see?
At the moment, I mean everything sort of. I'm now moving into my second year of university, and
Right.
if you've anyone who's been to university knows that the second you hit second year, the work rate just goes through the roof. Everything becomes a lot more.
Intense.
There's much more
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
Um, but I think for my music that is probably going to be a good thing. I think I see my music I sort of see my music taking a little bit of a different shape as I go
Okay.
forward. I'm listening to a lot of different stuff, and I'm sort of playing around with different stuff that I haven't done before
Okay.
in the sort of writing process and things like that. So
Hmm.
I'm excited for that. But I do also have, I think, 6 songs that I've been working for the past 12-18 months that are like almost there. So my plan is to get them out by the end of the year,
Okay. Are you,
potentially.
yeah, are you, have you got any sort of social distance gigs, in the pipeline or?
Not at the moment. It's been a little bit. I found it difficult sometimes because back at home I had pretty terrible Wi-Fi in my house, so it wasn't sufficient enough to do any sort of live stream gigging,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Um, I did one with. Do you know Park Live?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Park Live. They did one of their virtual festivals, and I was able to join in with them
Right. Okay.
for that.
Nice.
I have nothing planned at the moment, but it
Okay.
is on my mind.
Yeah, I
So
think it's also the thing of, like you say, that being a second year student, your workload's increased now. So, managing your time is obviously will be quite difficult, I would assume.
yeah,
So,
I
okay.
yeah, I think that
Um,
period initially, that first period of lockdown, I think was quite useful to sort of learn a bit of how to
yeah,
manage my time while being at home. Because now,
yeah,
of course, a lot of what we do is now at home, so we need to be able to still work, even if we're
yeah,
sat in our bedroom.
exactly. Exactly. Absolutely brilliant. So, are you at the moment listening to any local artists, or are you focusing more on, your mainstream sort of bigger artists?
Oh, I do listen to quite a few local artists.
Okay.
I It was only really until last year that I realized, just before I moved down to Falmouth, it was only really until like the summer of 2019 that I realized the 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 music scene that was where I used to live, sort of in South Devon.
Yeah.
So I absorbed a lot of that in sort of about 2019. I got involved with it, and it was so much
Yeah.
bigger than I thought it was.
Yes.
And then I've moved down here, and the same thing is happening. So I do, yeah, I do miss it. There's a fantastic scene in the southwest, I think.
There is. I mean, it's, at times you think about it, it's for the geographical area.
Mm,
It's crazy the amount of talent down here.
yeah.
So, but we're lucky because, like say, you're studying at Falmouth there, the music place, and superb. And some of the musicians and artists that are coming out of there are fantastic.
Mm,
And but a lot of the collaboration that goes on between sort of local artists down here is brilliant, superb.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a random question now. I'm going to ask you, if you could open up for any band or artists, on stage, if you could be the opening act, who would you choose? Anybody you
Oh,
like,
anybody I like. That is a
alive
good
or
question.
dead?
Alive or dead? At the moment, my favorite. Have you ever heard of the band Alter Bridge?
No, no.
No, they're a sort of hard rock, slightly alternative metal band from America, and they've been, my sort of idols of
Okay.
guitar and vocals for many years. So I think from just a purely fanboy perspective,
Yeah, yeah,
Alter
yeah.
Bridge would probably have to be there.
Okay.
Um,
So
any other
have you always, the hard rock sort of thing, has that always been your cup of tea, or, have you been into other genre that you like?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I grew up with a household that sort of loved that kind of music. We always had I grew up with bands like Supertramp,
Yeah,
Pink Floyd,
yeah,
Rush, Joe
yeah,
Bonamassa,
yeah.
those sorts of bands. So the sort of that kind of music was always around when I was younger. The
Right.
guitar was always around when I was younger. None of my immediate family were musicians, but they were
Okay.
all deep lovers of music.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So that's where it came from. As
So
I
how,
grew a bit older,
right, go
um,
on.
I sort of expanded into different areas of music.
Right,
But
right.
my love of music kind of stemmed from that. So that's where a lot of that.
Listening to music as you grew up, it was all around you, and yeah,
Yeah,
parents playing it. So when did you sort of learn to play the guitar then? What age?
I believe I was 10 or 11.
Okay.
Um, I was 10 or 11. I Music was the idea of playing guitar to me at the time was just I never thought I would. I always thought it'd be a cool thing to do, but I don't know if I ever will.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I remember one day, I think I was in year six, and they were like, "Oh, by the way, we're offering guitar lessons. You can take one of these sheets if you're interested." So I thought, "All
Okay.
right, I'll take a sheet home before." I think I took one home before, and I got a certified no from the parents.
Okay.
But this time I brought it home, and they said, yeah, all right, well, you can learn how to play guitar, everything
Okay.
like that. So I learned from there, and I think about after 6 to 12 months of playing guitar, I decided, I love this. I would love
Yeah.
to do this in the future,
Yeah. So
and it's
what was your first tune you played, or first riff, or what was the
first tune or first riff. Um, I want to say "Smoke on the
I
Water."
knew it. I knew it, mate. I knew it. I was the same, exactly the same.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
thinking back, there was a few little bits here and there that I used to
Yeah.
play, but
Yeah.
the first sort of recognizable one would probably have to be
I
that.
think. I mean, I reckon if I was to ask 10 guitarists that question, I reckon nine would say "Smoke on the Water." Yeah.
"Smoke on the Water."
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So for yourself, is this your final year at uni, or have you got another year?
I'm gonna have another year after this.
Okay, and you're then going to be, because it's more going to be more business based, I would assume. Then is it more about the industry?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, we're doing it here. We're doing it a little bit in this course. It's very much the third year. The third year is very much structured as in you kind of have to take everything you've learned in first and second year and put it into context
Got
in
you.
uni. So not everyone on the course is going to become a singer songwriter, or not everyone is going to become a producer. So it's kind of saying you sort of have an idea of what you want to do,
Yeah.
and you have to put everything into practice and show how you've
Okay.
done that.
Yeah.
So for me it's probably going to be, I want to be sort of an original songwriter, do my solo project, and play music really. So that would be my
Right.
goal, is to just sort of do that but ramp it up.
So you're identifying sort of like strengths and weaknesses, basically, for yourself. So would you identify a strength for yourself as being your guitaring and your lyrics, as opposed to, I don't know, manager style of things, or are you looking at a complete package? I don't know.
um I mean, I've always my sort of approach to university has always been to try and do as much as I possibly can, because you get 3 years of just having tons of things that you can access,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes amazing how much people don't use when they're at university.
Mm, mm.
So my plan is to kind of use as much as I can to get what you said as the complete package.
Yeah.
um
Right.
but I think it's just more kind of personal preference of just wanting to play, write music and perform music live, because that's what I love to do the most.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Um, So normally what happens now is, I ask if for 2 tracks that are out there on YouTube, either in video form or just music, and I'll put them on, the playlist, for anybody that listens to this show that wants to listen to your music.
Hmm.
So do you want to give me a couple of tracks? Give me the titles.
I will. I will have to pick. I mean, the first one I will have to pick is a song called "Time to Say No."
Okay.
Um, a song I wrote that song I think last year. And I only released it recently, but I
Okay.
it was one of the songs that I sort of like had a personal love for,
Hmm.
and I was like, I only want to release it when it's right. So that's why it took a while.
Okay.
And the other one will have to be Breakdown, which I say was the song that kind of started my whole. It sort of kick-started the direction of music that I'm going in now.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. We're sort of coming up to the end here now, Rhys. And on my WKS, the podcasts I started a couple of years ago, I always ask the artists, at the very end, is there anybody you want to thank for you being here musically now? Um, Anybody you like? Some people say their mum and dad, some people
Mm.
say Jimmy Page, or what, anybody you actually would like to say thanks to.
Oh, blimey! I mean, of course, I'd have to thank my whole family. because they've always been the most supportive, but they've also been helpful in terms they've always tried to be useful, if that makes sense. They don't
Okay.
they don't just say, "Oh, it's great." If I ask for feedback, they'll try and give feedback for me.
Okay.
Um,
Did they do a lot of lugging around of gear then to different gigs, or were
they did some of it. They did it very begrudgingly, but
they?
they did it.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Probably my guitar teacher, Steve Lockett, I'd like to thank because I've had it. I learned with him for nearly 6 or 7 years of
Brilliant.
my life. I'd like to thank him. I would also like to thank my girlfriend, Lucy Williamson, um, who is very. We've just started living together, and it's extremely handy having her around because she is a creative like myself, and she's unbelievably hardworking, and
Brilliant.
it's very handy having someone like that because it always encourages you to keep working hard and keep believing that
Yeah.
what you do will eventually turn into a job.
Superb. Rhys, look, thank you very much for giving me the interview.
Thank you.
And good luck, and hopefully we'll hear you live at some point.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
All
having
right.
me.
No worries. You take care, mate.
All right. Thank
Cheers.
you.